Hi guys, my name is Marcel, and in today's tutorial you'll learn how to draw animals. Like a sir. But wait, I hear you say, didn't you already make a video about drawing cats or something? And to that, I'm saying I have no idea what you're talking about. You guys asked for a video about animals in general, so this video was suggested by you guys. I'm not an expert at this topic, but I'll still give it my all. If you have any more suggestions, just comment them down below. As you can see, I actually read your comments and make videos out of them. So yeah, here we go. I'll show you the basics once more so we can draw pretty much most animals, and after that, we'll use that method to draw a canine and a feline together. But first, let's take a look at the basics together. So, for starters, it really doesn't matter what kind of animal you want to draw. After all, you can always make them up of basic shapes in order to make them easier to draw. What is this? Isn't this how little children draw Pokemon or something? Yes, exactly. What? You see everyone drawing Pokemon like this because it's literally the easiest method and it works the best. So, why not just use it? Though when I'm drawing a human or an animal or whatever, I always try to study the subject in question first. So that when drawing, I can understand how the anatomy actually works. You know, the age-old tale of understanding how your subject works and then trying to draw it yourself. And, of course, this also goes for the head or the face of said animal. For example, when drawing a snout. I don't draw these things right away in detail. I always use basic shapes, not only when drawing humans, but also when drawing animals. Let's take this cat right here as an example so you could see how this works in action. Like I said, I'm blocking this out first just to make sure the proportions aren't off. By the way, this is absolutely a matter of practice. Getting the hang out of proportions and stuff takes a while. And right after that, well, you get the gist. You're adding details in order to shape these rough blocks. I'm not gonna go into any more detail right now. Like I said, we're drawing more and more detailed versions later on. What's very important with the details though is your attention with this drawing. Are you going for a more realistic animal drawing? In this case, you definitely want to add a lot more details. Luckily, with animals, you won't have to think much about what kind of details you should add, because you could always add more fur in most cases. Now, if you want to have a more stylized animal, let's say for a comic, cartoon, anime or manga, you should avoid too much detail and only go with concise lines. There isn't an objectively easier or harder style though, both styles have their ups and downs. And yes, I'm basically only making this video right now because I really like the second Puss in Boots movie because, I mean, how can you not, right? Most important thing is that you understood the workflow. Separate your subject into boxes and other geometrical shapes and then work in the details from there. And this should be where the tutorial could end because you can draw any animal like this. But I know that all of this might be easier said than done. That's why, as always, I prepared a little cheat sheet where I separated some animals into their basic shapes, ready for you to study. You can screenshot this if you want to. As always, the only payment for this cheat sheet would be a like. I would appreciate if you guys left a thumbs up and maybe a comment as a tip. Also, I'm aware that most of you clicked this video because they wanted to draw an animal body like this, but some of you might be also interested in drawing a detailed face of an animal. That's why I thought we could draw a dog and a cat together as a draw-along using the method I just explained. Just one thing before we start, with all of these tutorials, no one ever mentions that your first try probably isn't going to work out perfectly if you're not very experienced with art. Heck, even I myself need multiple tries for this sometimes. And every other artist is the same too, but somehow no one else is talking about it. So yeah, don't get too frustrated if something doesn't work out first try, it rarely does. Alright, we good? Then let's start with cats, since I think that's the easier one. I'm not drawing with an explicit reference that I'm copying here, by the way, but I think it's important to have some references ready just in case you need to look something up. Though I think I'm going to put the final result up on screen just to have a rough idea what we're going for. Now, we're not drawing a circle as a guideline. A cat's skull actually already has a certain shape, which is why I think it's a lot easier to just use this exact shape as your guideline. And now, at least to me, this makes the placement of the ears a lot easier as well. By the way, in case you're drawing along right now, you can change the playback speed if I'm too fast or too slow for you. Anyway, now, I think it's always helpful to pencil in the direction the head's looking at, like this for example. Sounds unimportant, but I think this can help a ton when it comes to perspective. Let's draw the snout next. The most important part here is the ratio. I like to draw the chin a lot smaller than the rest of the snout. This looks a bit cuter. Now, I know people like to draw the nose of a cat as a triangle, but hear me out, a cat nose is literally the Tesla logo. There, I said it. Yeah, I think this works great as a mnemonic device, and keep in mind, we're still in the blocking stage. So let's figure out where the eyes are supposed to go next. You know me, I'm a huge fan of using guidelines. I think they are an immense help when it comes to placing facial features. Just make sure that when drawing the eyes, they're not just circles, but they instead have this elongated form right here. You know, just like with Charmander. Now just add another layer of fur, and we're good to go. Well done. When drawing in the details, you can just use the same pencil as before, or just do it with a much darker pencil, like the one that I'm using. Let's take care of the snout first. The snout splits right under the nose, so let's start right there. And also, while you're at it, you can just refine the Tesla shape, I guess. Also, since cats don't have much fur here, you can just slightly imply the nose bridge as well. Just make sure the strokes go into the right direction. This makes for a nice 3D effect. Apply some eyeliner right after that, and then we can take care of the pupils. For the pupils, you could, of course, just draw in some slits like that, causing cats to look like the psychopaths they really are, but if you want to draw a cat that doesn't look like it's running over the 9th circle of hell, you can just broaden the pupil like that. Still looks like a serial killer in the making, I know, but in order to combat this look, you can just shade the top half of its eyes. And now the biggest and most tedious part comes last, the fur. The way this artwork looks right now, this could easily pass as your regular cartoon cat, but the way you draw the fur can quickly change all of this. Like I said, how realistic your art looks solely depends on your final rendering. That's how it is with pretty much every artwork out there. Just make sure you're not just drawing in hair for the sake of filling gaps, be aware that the fur follows a certain pattern, and that's precisely the way you want to draw it. I'll be going with a middle ground between realistic and cartoony, so I won't try too hard with this. I'll just draw in the most basic fur. But if you're really good at rendering, you can prove your mettle here. Now, while drawing this fur, I don't really have much else to say, and I also can't think of a joke here, which is why I'll just put my cards on the table and ask you guys to subscribe. I have a whole list of videos I still want to make in the coming months and maybe years, and you can join my crew if you subscribe and watch these videos. Now, last but not least, you can add some whiskers, because cats tend to have those. And as a cherry on top, you can add some highlights to the eyes. For this, you can use the edge of your eraser, or you can get your hands on an eraser pen. This thing is actually priceless, and I'm saying that even without being sponsored. In case you want to take a look at my art supplies, or just my eraser pen, I have a whole list on my website. And voila, this has been a portrait of a cat. And now watch the other one. Okay, before we're getting into drawing a dog, we need to set the record straight on what race we're drawing. Why now all of a sudden? I know you cat fanatics might be skeptical right now. We didn't need to pick races with cats, but why is it so much more important with dogs? I think the difference in looks between dog races is much more drastic, so the race we pick or don't pick actually makes a difference here. Unlike with cats. This drawing will actually be a dog that has wolf-like features. So let's start once more. Again, if I'm talking too fast or too slow, just change the playback speed of the video. The first step is just like before with drawing the head. Dogs also don't have a perfect circle as a head, so keep that in mind. After all, as you can see, their skull also has a certain shape. You also want to determine which way the dog's looking, just so that working with perspective gets a bit easier later on. Now, the snout's the most crucial part. Take your time with these steps, try to get it as right as possible, because if you screw up here, your whole drawing will be off later on. And, speaking of screwing up, let's draw the eyes. Again, like before, I'm using guidelines as a means to get the eyes as correct as possible. And just like with cats, you want to elongate them a bit. The eyes are not just perfect circles. Wolf-like dogs also have pretty big pointy ears, so don't forget those as well. And after roughly adding the fur on the neck, the only thing to block in would be the nose. Unlike with cats, this nose isn't shaped like the logo of a certain car brand, but rather just as a rectangle. And that has been the blocking stage. You can add some more guidelines, like a split right in the middle of the nose or some eyebrows. Some dogs do have those, but other than that, we can now get detailed. What I'm doing first is to split the snout in half. When drawing the jaw, you can keep in mind that the lower jaw is much slimmer than the upper one. After all, the upper one's the one with the nose. Also, if you pay attention, you might have noticed that the lips of a dog tend to get smaller as they go on. These might be little details, but they make your drawing much more believable. And if you are done with that, you can add some teeth and, of course, a tongue. For the remaining details, I'll use a darker pencil, but if you only have one pencil laying around, you can just continue using that one. Right now, I'll continue with the eyes. Make sure you outline the eyes as bold and as dark as possible. Also, you can shade the top part of the iris with dogs as well. This basically goes for any animal. And now, for the rest of this artwork, I'm actually just redrawing these parts with a darker pencil. Where it actually gets interesting though is, again, with the fur. It's pretty much the exact same thing again. More details and hair make your art more realistic, while less details keep this cartoonish look. Just like with cats, I'm just going for a middle ground here, so not too hard. And just like with cats, dogs also have a similar pattern as to how their fur is flowing. So try keeping this pattern in mind when rendering the fur. And just like before, if you have an eraser, you can use the edge of your eraser to add some highlights. I'm using my eraser pen again. This makes things a little easier. In case you want to get the very same one, all of my art supplies are listed on my website. And last but not least, you can add some whiskers. Just make sure they are not all over the place like with cats. Dogs have fewer, shorter whiskers. And that does it for the canine part of this video. With this knowledge, you can basically draw a dog or a cat or any other animal from every other perspective as well. It's basically always the same procedure every time with the same basic shapes. I actually also wanted to add a part about stylized animal in detail. You know, just in case you would want to draw animals for comics or for manga. That's something that I've done quite a few times already. Or maybe you would want to draw animals in the same way that Puss in Boots looks. Or maybe you would want to draw animals for furry art. No, we're not doing this again! This video is long enough as it is, and I put quite a lot of work in it already, so if you'd want to have another video on stylized animals, you can just let me know down in the comments. I've also made videos where you can draw humans alongside me, step by step. I've made one purely on anatomy and one purely on drawing poses. They are on screen right now, so you can click them. Right now. Quick! Hurry! Before the video is over. You better hurry. Video is gonna end in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.